One of the big changes that you get when you play on the console is the rhythm of the game is a little bit different. When you play on PC, you have your mouse, you're clicking with your mouse, it creates a staccato rhythm. On console, you're mostly moving the left stick, so the rhythm flows a little bit differently. That means that some skills on console actually kind of flourish in a very different way. If you've played a barbarian and you're using whirlwind, just driving your barbarian who's a fury of flailing axes in a tornado around the screen, on console is just a completely different experience. We've made sure that all the skills that existed on PC have been adapted to console. We had to make some adjustments because you don't have a mouse, for instance, to move around on the screen, which is, I think, the biggest change rather than the key bindings is going from the stick to the mouse, or the mouse to the stick, rather. So, for instance, the Barbarian Leap ability, you can use it to jump into combat and just, all of a sudden land on a pile of enemies and send them flying. Or if you're surrounded by enemies, you can use it to leap out of danger. And we had to make sure that on console you were able to do the same thing. So there are two ways to use that skill. You can tap the button and it jumps on what you have targeted, or you can press and hold and it jumps the max distance. So it's not necessarily as pinpoint accurate as on PC, but the functionality is still there, and the flow, the quick pace of the combat is maintained, which was the most important thing for us.
I imagine you've had a lot of experiences where you've gotten people who have, you're testing the game, who have enjoyed Diablo 3 on the PC. They've had the chance to play it on consoles. What has been, in your experience, I guess, their biggest takeaway of this new way of playing the game?
I think the biggest takeaway, and also the most rewarding takeaway, is that every single time we've been able to show this game to people who from the public, essentially, when we've done like shows like PAX East or when we've gone to E3, is whether you explain how the controller works or not, they get it. It's very intuitive. We've never had a problem with handing the controller to somebody. We like to tell them, like, this is what this button does, mostly because it's a little faster for them to get into it. But there have been times when people have just grabbed it and started playing, and then they slowly discover things. And it really is very validating and very rewarding that the hardest part of our work, which is to get the controller to feel just completely natural, and so the game is pick up and slay, like we like to say.
Yeah, pick up and slay.
That was validated every single time. It's really, really worked well, especially with our fans who know the game, because they know all the skills. So they're like, yep, this button does that skill. Yep, I know how to use it. Yep. All right, stop talking to me. I'm fighting monsters. We're good. Treasure Goblin.
You got me with that one, Treasure Goblin. Sorry, kind of derailed what I was asking. But yeah, that sounds excellent that they've actually been able to play it. And like you said, the real jump in and slay. In terms of online connectivity, because that was a big part of Diablo 3, how is that being integrated for the console versions? Things, like the auction house, things like just, the need to be online. How is that going to be implemented in the console versions of this game?
So, early on, we talked to Microsoft and Sony, and we got some feedback from them that this generation of console, there are still a large number of them that are not connected to the internet at all, a very large number of them. So we made the decision early on not to require online always, because we wanted to reach as large an audience as possible, which meant, for instance, that we don't have the auction house on the console version of the game, because obviously we want the playing field has to be leveled for everybody. That has impacted our drops. That's another reason why we drop better loot. It's another reason why crafting is a little better, mostly because the pool of players you're trading with is more limited. It's the people you play with directly, the people on your friends list. So we help prop that up a little bit by tweaking the drop rates and the quality of items. But otherwise you can enjoy Diablo 3 on console in a variety of way, offline, online, with your friends, friends list, same couch. So there's whatever you want, however you want to play it, it's there.
Absolutely. Now, how many actual people can you get playing on your one screen? Because you talked about the different ways you can play from just, on the couch versus online. What are the max number of explorers and players you can have while you're playing the game?
So the maximum number, no matter what, is 4, and it's any kind of combination. So it could be you and me could be playing, on our couch, together, and then somebody else could be joining us from their home, or they could be together on their couch and could do like that. So any combination between same screen and online. If you're on the same screen, you're kind of tethered to one another. The camera will pull back. At some point, it'll lock you in place. You share loot drops. But if you are playing online, then you have your own screen. You can kind of roam wherever you want. It's like the PC version. You have your own loot drops. So if you and I are playing on a couch and a friend of ours joins us, we don't see what items drop for him. He doesn't see what items drop for us, and he can roam around and do whatever he wants. But you and I have to stick together, and you have to make sure not to take my gear or I will punch you.
Well, I love that you're actually bringing in any sort of combination of just, me and a friend on the couch, one person online, another not, because I think a lot of games that do get ported, or even, games that are made natively for the system, they don't make that choice. So again, great tip of the hat for that. Cannot wait for it. You're dealing very intimately with boss mechanics, making sure they work just as well and as fluid on the consoles. I'd love to know a little bit about that process. What are some of the design hurdles that us gamers, could never assume would be difficult of making that sort of transition?
I think on console you have, I know on console you have a huge history of boss fights. I mean, there have been boss fights since the dawn of consoles. So you really have a big tradition there. And that meant that when we started looking at taking the game and at putting it on console, we had a second crack at Diablo. And so we looked at the bosses we had made, and we started looking into improvements and changes we could make. And the fact that you have this evade move all of a sudden on your character, and that you are the character, you're directly controlling him, you're not telling him where to go, that implied that players were going to assume that they would be able to dodge more attacks from the enemies. They were going to be able to position themselves a little bit more carefully in fights. And so, for instance, in the Butcher fight, for those who are familiar with it, the ground lights up, it starts to fire starts to come out of the grates. And the pattern that we were using on PC is very hard to recognize, which is not that much of a problem on PC because it's hard to get out of the way, really. You expect that you're going to get burned. But on console, you're going to expect that you're going to be able to recognize the pattern, position yourself right. And so we had to rework that to make sure that players would be able to kind of understand what's about to happen, how do I get to position myself, what do I need to do. So lots of things like that.
Oh, I love it. I'd love to hear that it's not just, the fact that you're going from PC to consoles seemingly very intelligently. So really cannot wait for it. The one question I want to ask, Blizzard is very, very famous for ensuring continued support of their games. The base copy of any of their games you're getting a year and a half to 2 years later is going to have so many great adaptations and new content. For Diablo 3, can we look forward to those, similar sort of updates as, the game progresses?
So right out of the box, you're already getting some of those updates. Since we actually are fortunate to have taken up to patch 1.08 from PC. That's been integrated into the console version. So the Infernal Machine events, Monster Power, all those cool things that have been sort of added to the PC version since launch, we will already have on the console version. We're not really talking about our plans post-launch, but we treat this game very, very seriously like any Blizzard game. So we're going to want to make sure to take care of our fans. There are our fans, whether they're on console or on PC.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, so much for taking the time. You got me really excited for it. Finally, just from you, someone who's worked on this for so long, what is the number one reason why gamers should pick up this game, I guess, in just a couple of weeks now?
So that they can get on their couch with their buddies and just roam the world of Sanctuary, murdering their way through enemy waves and picking up cool loot.
There you go. There you have it. Also, of course, this is coming to next gen, correct? There's talk of it on the PS4?
Yep, absolutely. It's what you pulled me away from working on.
Oh, really? So that's still in the process. I know you could probably not tell us very much of that, but is that, another stepping stone of design hurdles? Now you went from PC to current gen and now to next gen. I imagine there's going to be a lot of big new things with that as well. I
think at this point we're still trying to figure out exactly what we're doing with the controller and what we're doing with our social features and making sure that we're not just using them in a gimmicky way, but using them in a way that is going to enhance the game and make the game, feel good, work for the game. That's always our number one priority. So that's at the phase we're at right now. All right. Well, I cannot wait to lose a couple hundred hours on my couch. What consoles are Diablo 3 dropping on and when? PS3 and an Xbox 360 coming out September 3rd, so very, very soon, and PS4 at a later date. Thank you again. This is Matthew Berger, Senior Level Designer. Thank you so much for joining the show. Make sure everyone picks it up. Andy Borkowski, VGS.